Hi, everybody. Benji and Skippy and Miss Cunningham here on day one of On the Couch with Miss Cunningham. I'm getting ready to read get out of my face, first couple of chapters of My Side of the Mountain. And so hopefully we can read this together. And then in a week or two, whenever we finish it, you guys can take an AR test. So let's wait for some of our friends to get on here. Can you say hi, Benj? Say hi, everybody. You want to say hi? Oh, okay. Oh, that's nice. Oh, thank you for the kisses. That's nice. What do you think, Skip? So how's everyone enjoying their first day of Corona-cation? Here, let's put this down a little bit. There we go. This is Benji's favorite spot right here. And then Skip's going to get jealous because, you know, he gets jealous. Hi, everybody. Who's here? Let me know who's here. I know, Skip, you're here. I know it. I know it. Get out of here. See Benj, how he's laying down? Can't you be like that? Can't you just relax? Oh, this. Why don't you come over here and lay down? Come here. Lay down. Can you come lay down? No? Hi. Come here. Tell him, Benj. Okay, come here. Skip, come here. Come here. Do you need to go outside? Okay, be right back. Hi. Come here. You want to sit in the sun? Hi, friends. Who's here? Who's here? Hi, everybody. How is day one of Corona-cation? No? Should we not call it that? Mandatory vacay. Can we call it that? We're getting some messages. Aberdeen. Hi, Aberdeen. How are you? Hello. So if you guys subscribe to this YouTube channel, I guess it gives you updates when I go live. And so it notifies you when there's going to be a video, apparently. I'm learning all these things I never wanted to know. Hi, Benj. Hi. Okay, like I said before, we are going to be reading My Side of the Mountain. And you don't have to have a book. That's the great thing, is that I'm going to be reading, we're going to be talking about it, and then in a week or two, whenever we finish, that we can take the AR test. So you don't have to have the book. I'm going to be doing all the work. You just have to sit and listen. And after the live video, if you come in, mid-chapter, you can always rewind it and go back and check it out. 6 people. Who are my friends here? Can someone Alina? Hi, Alina. How are you, sweetheart? I miss you. Benj, will come say hi to Alina? No? Okay. Benji's not feeling like being on camera today. Let's see. All right, friends, are you ready? Okay, so here's the book. It's called My Side of the Mountain. It's a great book. Normally, we read it in class together, probably towards mid-April. So we might not get there. So we're going to go over it. So it's about a boy who is sick and tired of living in an apartment in the big city. And he's got lots of brothers and sisters. and he runs away. And it's set kind of like in the 50s. So he runs away. His great grandfather has some property, and he is set out, and he is going to find it. And so, wait, hold on, Vicky. What's wrong with Vicky? What's wrong? Boo boo, talk to me, Goose. So he's going to go find the property, and he is going to live off the land, so he thinks. So what I want you to think about is, what 10 things would you take with you if you were running away from home right now? What would you take? Would you take layers of clothes? Would you take food? What kind of food would you take? What would you take to cook it in? Would you take a knife? Would you take, oh, hold on. Dog problems. Hi, Skip. Come lay down. Come on. There you go. So everyone can see you. Okay. So lay down. This is Skippy, everybody. He's special. Are you special? Good little boy. So he wants to live off the land. And so he is set to do it. Hi! It's Olivia. Hi, Olivia. Skippy, say, hi, Olivia. No, are you not feeling it? So he wants to go live off the land. So I'm sure a lot of you have thought, you know what? That's it. My parents are lame. I'm running away. Have you guys ever thought that? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you've ever thought that. Luke, come on. So this is about a boy who just decides to go and live off the land. So the book starts out kind of like in his journey, and it goes back, not me, Olivia. And the book kind of goes back to, it starts off down the road a little bit after he's been living off the land, and then it takes us back to the very beginning and how he ran away. So here we go. Chapter 1. In which I hole up in a snowstorm. I am on my mountain in a tree home that people have passed without ever knowing that I am here. The house is a hemlock tree 6 feet in diameter and must be as old as the mountain itself. I came upon it last summer and dug and burned it out until I made a snug cave in the tree that I now call home. My bed is on the right as you enter and is made of ash slats covered with deerskin. Ash is a type of tree. On the left is a small fireplace about knee-high. It is of clay and stones. It has a chimney that leads the smoke out through a knothole. I chipped out 3 other knotholes to let fresh air in. The air coming in is bitter cold. It must be below 0 outside, and yet I can sit here inside my tree and write with bare hands. The fire is small too. It doesn't take much fire to warm this tree room. It is the 4th of December, I think. It may be the 5th. I am not sure, because I have not recently counted the notches in the aspen pole that is my calendar. I have been just too busy gathering nuts and berries, smoking venison. What's venison? Who knows? Deer meat, right? Deer meat. I have been smoking venison, fish, and small game to keep up with the exact date. The lamp I am writing by is deer fat poured into a turtle shell with a strip of my old city trousers for a wick. It snowed all day yesterday and today. I have not been outside since the storm began, and I am bored for the first time since I ran away from home 8 months ago to live on the land. So he has been living off the land for 8 months now. I am well and healthy. The food is good. Sometimes I eat turtle soup, and I know how to make acorn pancakes. I keep my supplies in the wall of the tree in wooden pockets that I chopped myself. Every time I have looked at those pockets during the last 2 days, I have felt just like a squirrel. Which reminds me, I didn't see a squirrel one whole day before the storm began. I guess they are holed up and eating their stored nuts too. I wonder if the Baron, That's the wild weasel who lives behind the big boulder to the north of my tree is also denned up. Well, anyway, I think the storm is dying down because the tree is not crying so much. Now, literally, do they mean crying? No, they mean like howling with all the wind and stuff. Okay. When the wind really blows, the whole tree moans right down to the roots, which is where I am. So basically what he's done is he's hollowed in, think of a big hemlock tree. Okay, they're like 6 feet in diameter all the way around. And so he has dug out and burned out, and he's at the bottom of the tree. So he's not up in the branches. He's down, like at the very base of the tree, and has burned out an area for his house. How are we doing? Good so far? Give me a thumbs up. Anyone? No? Someone? Olivia? Luke? Alina? See, where's everybody? Tomorrow, I hope the Baron and I can tunnel out into the sunlight. I wonder if I should dig the snow. But that would mean I would have to put it somewhere, and the only place to put it is in my nice, snug tree. Maybe I can pack it with my hands as I go. I've always dug into the snow from the top, never from under. The Baron must dig up from under the snow. I wonder where he puts it when he digs. Well, I guess I'll know in the morning. When I wrote that last winter, I was scared and thought maybe I'd never get out of my tree. I had been scared for 2 days, ever since the first blizzard hit the Catskill Mountains. Live cute emoji. When I came up into the sunlight, which I did by simply poking my head into the soft snow and standing up, I laughed at my dark fears. Everything was white, clean, shining, and beautiful. The sky was blue, blue, blue. The hemlock grove was laced with snow, and the meadow was smooth and white, and the gorge was sparkling with ice. It was so beautiful and peaceful that I laughed out loud. I guess I laughed because my first snowstorm was over and it had not been so terrible at all. Then I shouted, "I did it!" My voice never got very far. It was hushed by the tons of snow. I looked for signs from the Baron Weasel. His footsteps were all over the boulder, also slides where he had played. He must have been up for hours enjoying the new snow. Inspired by his fun, I poked my head into the tree and whistled. Frightful, my trained falcon, yes, a falcon, like a real live falcon. Thank you for that, Vicky. That's very nice. Flew to my fist, and we jumped and slid down the mountain, making holes and trenches as we went. It was good to be whistling and carefree and carefree again, because I was sure scared by the coming of that storm. I had been working since May, learning how to make a fire with flint and steel. That's what we did at Sutter's Fort. Do you guys remember the flint and the steel? Yeah. Finding what plants I could eat, how to trap animals and catch fish. All this so that when the curtain of blizzard struck the Catskills, I could crawl inside my tree and be comfortably warm and have plenty to eat. During the summer and fall, I had thought about the coming of winter. However, on the 3rd day of December, when the sky blackened, the temperature dropped, and the first flakes swirled around me as a snowstorm that gathered behind the gorge and mushroomed up and over my mountain. I was smoking 3 trout. So a way to preserve meat is that you smoke it. You put it over the fire and let the smoke dry out the meat so it takes all the moisture. Obviously, he didn't have a refrigerator, friends. Okay. I was busy keeping the flames low so they could not leap up and burn the fish. As I worked, it occurred to me that it was awfully dark for that hour of the morning. Frightful was leashed to her tree stub. She seemed restless and pulled at her tethers. Tethers are what they're used to put, like, it's kind of like a leash for birds, and they tie it around. I'm not talking to you. They tie it around their feet, and so they can, if they fly off, they can hold on to them. I hope that makes sense, you guys. Then I realized that the forest was dead quiet. Even the woodpeckers that had been tapping around me all morning were silent. The squirrels were nowhere to be seen. The juncos and the chickadees and the nuthatches were gone. I looked to see what the bear and weasel was doing, and he was not around. I looked up. From my tree, you can see the gorge beyond the meadow. White water pours between the black, wet boulders and cascades into the valley below. The water that day was as dark as the rocks. Only the sounds told me that it was still falling. Above the darkness stood another darkness, the clouds of winter, black and fearsome. They looked as wild as the winds that were bringing them. I grew sick with fright. I knew I had enough food. I knew everything was going to be perfectly all right. But knowing that didn't help. I was scared. I stamped out the fire and pocketed the fish. I tried to whistle for Frightful, but couldn't purse my shaking lips tight enough to get out anything but so I grabbed her by the hide straps that are attached to her legs, and we dove through the deerskin door into my room in the tree. I put Frightful on the bedpost and curled up in a ball on the bed. I thought about New York and the noise and the lights and how a snowstorm always seemed very friendly there. I thought about our apartment too. At that moment, it seemed bright and lighted and warm. I had to keep saying to myself, there were 11 of us in it. Dad, Mom, 4 sisters, 4 brothers, and me. And not one of us liked it. Except perhaps little Nina, who was too young to know. Dad didn't like it even a little bit. He had been a sailor once when I was born. He gave up the sea and worked on the docks in New York. Dad didn't like the land. He liked the sea, wet and big and endless. Sometimes he would tell me about great-grandfather Gribbly, who owned land in the Catskill Mountains and felled trees and built a home and plowed the land, only to discover that he wanted to be a sailor. The farm failed, and great-grandfather Gribbly went to sea. As I lay with my face buried in the sweet, greasy smell of my deerskin, I could hear Dad's voice saying, "That land is still in the family's name. Somewhere in the Catskills is an old beach with the name Gribbly carved on it. It marks the northern boundary of Gribbly's Folly. The land is no place for a Gribbly." The land is no place for a Gribbly, I said. Here I am, 300 feet from the beach, not the Beach. This is Beecech. It's a type of tree. See, we're learning. Who knew? With Gribbly carved on it. I fell asleep at that point, and when I awoke, I was hungry. I cracked some walnuts, got down the acorn flour I had pounded, and with a bit of ash to remove. So this is what they do when people walk by that they can see because they feel like they have to alert. Benji, shh! They have to alert the neighborhood and tell everyone when danger is coming. Danger. Benji, look at Benji. Benji, come here. Calm down. Thank you. My goodness gracious. Okay. I cracked some walnuts, got down the acorn flour I had, pounded with a bit of ash to remove the bite. Reached out the door for a little snow and stirred up some acorn pancakes. I cooked them on the top of a tin can, and as I ate them smothered with blueberry jam, I knew that the land was just the place for a Gribbly. Chapter 1, the end. Okay, how I'm doing? What do you guys think so far? Thumbs up? Meh? Thumbs down? What are we thinking? Anyone? Anyone? What are we thinking? Okay, awesome. Okay, so I'm going to read one more chapter today, and it talks about how he gets started, and it's pretty cool. All right, here we go. in which I get started on this venture. I left New York in May. I had a penknife, which is like a pocket knife, a ball of cord, like string, an axe, and $40, which I had saved from selling magazine subscriptions. I also had some flint and steel, which I had bought at a Chinese store in the city. The man in the store had showed me how to use it. He had also given me a little purse to put it in and some tinder to catch the sparks. He had told me that if I ran out of tinder, I should burn cloth and use the charred ashes. I thanked him and said, "This is the kind of thing I am not going to forget." On the train north to the Catskills, I unwrapped my flint and steel and practiced hitting them together to make sparks. On the wrapping paper, I made these notes. A hard, brisk strike is best. Remember to hold the steel in the left hand and the flint in the right, and hit the steel with the flint. The trouble is the sparks go every which way, and that was the trouble. I did not get a fire going that night, as I mentioned. This was a scary experience. I hitched rides into the Catskill Mountains. So I don't know if you guys know what hitchhiking is. So it's not something that's done anymore because we live in a world of wackadoos. So 60s and 70s and 80s even, people hitchhike. And so you would stand out on the side and just put a where you were going, and someone might stop and pick you up and take you to where you were going. It was a way to get to somewhere if you didn't have a ride for free, if you couldn't buy a bus ticket, or if you didn't have a car. But it's not done. I mean, people still do it, I guess, but it's not safe because okay. I hitched rides into the Catskill Mountains. At about 4 o'clock, a truck driver and I passed through a beautiful dark hemlock forest, and I said to him, "This is as far as I'm going." He looked all around and said, "You live here?" "No," I said, "but I am running away from home, and this is just the kind of forest I have always dreamed I would run to. I think I'll camp here tonight." I hopped out of the cab. "Hey, boy," the driver shouted, "are you serious?" "Sure," I said. "Well, now ain't that something," he said. "You know, when I was your age, I did the same thing. Only thing was I was a farm boy and I ran to the city. And you're a city boy running to the woods. I was scared of the city." "Do you think you'll be scared of the woods?" "Heck no," I shuffed. Everybody had laughed at me, even Dad. I told Dad that I was going to run away to great-grandfather Gribley's land. He had roared with laughter and told me about the time he had run away from home. He got on a boat, headed for Singapore, but when the whistle blew for departure, meaning they're getting ready to leave, he was down the gangplank and home in bed before anyone knew he was gone. Then he told me, "Sure, go ahead and try it. Every boy should try it." Okay, so do you think that's true? Do you think that people run away all the time? I'm sure when you were younger, you told your parents you didn't like them and that you'd had enough and that they were the meanest parents in the world and that you packed a bag and ran away. You did? Maybe you lived out in the country and so you just walked out into the orchard and you didn't get very far. Or maybe you went to the next door neighbor's house, or maybe your parents let you kind of walk down the road but kept an eye on you. And then when you got hungry, you came back, or when you missed your parents, you came back, or anyone? Did that happen? I must have walked a mile into the woods until I found a stream. It was a clear, athletic stream that rushed and ran and jumped and splashed. Ferns grew along its bank, and its rocks were upholstered with moss. Oh, such good writing. I sat down, smelled the piney air, and took out my penknife. I cut off a green twig and began to whittle. I have always been good at whittling. I carved a ship once that my teacher exhibited for parents' night at school. First, I whittled an angle on one end of the twig, and then I cut a small twig and sharpened it to a point. So here's a picture. So here is the sharp point of one twig wrapped together, and then it's going to make a hook. You guys see that? So what do you think he wants a hook for? Catching fish, right? I swiftly tied a string to my hook, put the grub on, and walked up the stream looking for a good place to fish. What's a grub? A gross little bug, right? I swiftly tied all the manuals I had read were very emphatic about where fish lived. Of a pool, eddies below rocks or logs, and deep undercut banks in the shade of an overhanging bush. All are very likely places to fish. This stream did not seem to have any calm water, and I must have walked 1,000 miles before I found a pool by deep undercut bank in the shade of overhanging bushes. Actually, it wasn't that far. It just seemed that way because as I went looking and finding nothing, I was sure that I was going to starve to death. I squatted on this bank and dropped in my line. I did so want to catch a fish. One fish would set me upon my way because I had read. Hi, Benj, come here. There's Benj. There goes Benj. She wants to sit in the sun. Oh, hi. One fish would set me upon my way because I had read how much you can learn from one fish. By examining the contents of its stomach, you can find what the other fish are eating, or you can use the internal organs as bait. The grub went down to the bottom of the stream. It swirled around and hung still. Suddenly, the string came to life and rode back and forth and around in a circle. I pulled with a powerful jerk. The hook came apart. Whatever I had went circling back to its bed. Well, that almost made me cry. My bait was gone, my hook was broken, and I was getting cold, frightened, and mad. I whittled another hook, but this time I cheated and used string to wind it together instead of bark. I walked back to the log and luckily found another grub. I hurried to the pool and I flipped a trout out of the water before I knew I had a bite. The fish flopped and I threw my whole body over it. I could not bear to think of it flopping itself back into the stream. I cleaned it like I had seen the man at the fish market do, examined its stomach, and found it empty. This horrified me. What I didn't know was that an empty stomach means the fish are hungry and will eat about anything. However, I thought at the time that I was a goner. What does that mean? He's thinking that he is... Nicoletta, hi! Jordan, hi! How are you guys doing? We are in the middle of chapter 2. So if you get a chance, you guys can rewind this when it's posted and check it out. But we're in the middle of chapter 2. You guys, I miss you. I wish I was in my classroom. I'm so sad. Jordan 3, you just woke up. Oh, my lands. You're grounded. Just kidding. All right. I stopped when I had 5 nice little trout and looked for a place to build a camp and make a fire. It wasn't hard to find a pretty spot along that stream. I selected a place beside a mossy rock in a circle of hemlocks. Nicoletta, you just woke up. You're grounded. I was actually at the nail place getting my nails done at 7 a.m. this morning. Aren't they pretty? So pretty, so pretty. Luke's probably like, who cares? I know, Nick. I wish school was back too, you guys. I cannot even begin to wrap my head around that for the next 4 weeks. Like, we're not going to be together. Like, this is how it's going to be. I'm super sad. I mean, my dogs are really excited. Don't let them fool you. They're excited to have me home. But I miss my monkeys. I decided to make a bed before I cooked. I cut off some boughs for a mattress, then I leaned some dead limbs against the boulder and covered them with hemlock limbs. This made a kind of tent. I crawled in, laid down, and felt alone and secret and very excited. But the rest of the story. I was on the northeast side of the mountain, and it grew dark and cold early, meaning like the sun went down. And so if here's your mountain and the sun goes down, it's still sunny on this side, but because it's behind the mountain, so that is all in shadow and cold really fast. Seeing the shadows slide down on me, I frantically ran around gathering firewood. This is about the only thing I did right from that moment until dawn, because I remembered that the driest wood in the forest is the dead limbs that are still on the trees, and I gathered an enormous of them. That pile must still be there, for I never got a fire going. I got sparks, sparks, sparks. I even hit the tinder with the sparks. The tinder burned all right, but that was as far as I got. I blew on it, I breathed on it, I cupped it in my hand, but no sooner did I add twigs than the whole thing went black. Then it got too dark to see. I clicked steel and flint together, even though I couldn't see the tinder. Finally, I gave up and crawled into my hemlock tent, hungry, cold, and miserable. I can talk about that first night now, although it is still embarrassing to me because I was so stupid and scared that I hate to admit it. I had made my hemlock bed right in the stream valley where the wind drained down from the cold mountaintop. I lost my place. It might have been all right if I had made it on the other side of the boulder, but I didn't. I was right on the main highway of the cold winds as they tore down upon the valley below. I didn't have enough hemlock boughs under me, and before I had my head down, my stomach was cold and damp. I took some boughs off the roof and stuffed them under me, and then my shoulders were cold. I curled up in a ball and was almost asleep when a whippoorwill called. If you have ever been within 40 feet of a whippoorwill, you will understand where I couldn't even shut my eyes. They are deafening. Well, anyways, the whole night went like that. I don't think I slept 15 minutes, and I was so scared and tired, and my throat was dry. I wanted to drink, but didn't dare go near the stream for fear of making a misstep and falling in and getting wet. So I sat tight and shivered and shook, and now I am able to say I cried a tiny little bit. There we go. First 2 chapters, you guys. So if you want, go back, rewind this video, and you guys can see the first. Ruby got the answer right, and Emily Woodall got the answer right for the riddle. So check Class Dojo in a couple of hours, and I will post another riddle. I love you guys. I miss you guys, and I will talk to you soon.